Joining us now to look at whether or not this issue is gone or the Democrats will try to make a campaign election year issue out of this is North Carolina Congressman Dan Bishop. He represents the 9th Congressional District of North Carolina. He is a member of the House Judiciary Committee who opposed this bill very vocally in the House. Congressman Dan Bishop, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. I'm delighted to see you.
Let me ask you this question. Chuck Schumer knew he did not have the votes. He had to have 60 votes to pass this. He couldn't do it. Is this all about showmanship, trying to show or say that present the Democrats as being tough on crime?
Well, I think maybe, Tony, there's an objective beyond looking tough on crime. The Democrats want to stigmatize Republicans as domestic terrorists. And that's what this represents. And the same thing occurred in the House and the House Judiciary Committee when the bill was marked up there. There is a desire to conflate white supremacist terrorists in particular with the political opposition of the Democrats. It is a remarkable, in a series or in a Congress in which institutional norms have been trampled by Democrats without restraint. This is a new low, in my judgment, where if you go back to 9/11 and remember back then, Tony, we were all together as Americans about the threat that terrorism represented to our society and to combating it. Democrats actually have come to the point where they want to assail their political enemies with the label of terrorist. And it is extreme. Besides being just an unethical thing to do, it is dangerous for our country and our ability to combat terrorism on a unified front.
I would think that this would further polarize our country when you're going to use the levers and the power of government to go after your political opponents, labeling them the same thing as someone that was involved in activities like Al-Qaeda or ISIS. And we're talking about, and this is not a stretch, okay? This is not a stretch, and I think you pointed this out in committee, that we're talking about parents who have gone to school board meetings upset over what their children are being indoctrinated with, being labeled as domestic terrorists.
Right. Not only is it not a threat, there's evidence that it's occurred. We know that from ranking member Jim Jordan on the committee I serve on, that there have been whistleblowers who have emerged who said that indeed, because the Attorney General, in a situation that the White House concocted, where they went out and recruited the National School Boards Association to send this letter leading to the Attorney General's memo suggesting that parents going to school board meetings were dangerous, the source of dangerous threats. Then they got the FBI Counterterrorism Division involved, and the Attorney General said, let's see meetings in every judicial district. They ultimately went out. We have 3 separate reports where FBI agents went out to interrogate parents about their activism before school boards. So it's not a theoretical thing, Tony. We've seen it activated this way. The use of the Patriot Act, counterterrorism mechanisms. And yes, the Democrats want to codify or place those practices in law. And as you said, even their definition of what domestic terrorism constitutes is fuzzy, and they even have some mixed up language in the bill about domestic terrorism activity that's not quite the same thing apparently as domestic terrorism. It's a terrible piece of legislation and a worse piece of statesmanship.
Dan, you and I have spent a lot of time talking to each other privately, and I know you are a follower of Christ, as I am, and we know that we have to give an account beyond the voters, beyond our constituents. We give an account to God for what we say and what we advocate for. And so everything I say in this program, I'm very measured about it because
Yes,
I know that I give an account for that. But I see this, and you see this, and I'm concerned, just like the police reform bill that they couldn't get through the Senate, that the president's going to do something by executive order on this. This is all designed to silence people like us. That's how I see it. Is that right or wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Look, Tony, if domestic terrorism were were correctly focused upon and the right things were being done, that bill would be bipartisan overwhelmingly. And so this is how you know that, I mean, it's just absurd to suggest that, well, Republicans are soft on domestic terrorism or any form of terrorism. They don't want to reach a constructive result to attack a specific problem. And if that's so, then indeed, what is the objective? It is the most grotesque form of stigmatization, stigmatizing your political opponent. And when we talk about the domestic terrorism with the FBI and the parents at school boards, they're doing the same thing. It's a politicization of the law enforcement mechanisms of the country. And as you say, I don't seek to exaggerate either. It is an extremely dangerous place for our country to be.
Yes, it is.
Any political party would do that.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Dan Bishop, we're out of time. Thanks so much for joining us today. Always great to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Tony. Likewise.